So our today guest has already joined us. So without wasting time, I will start the program. Good afternoon to one and all, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of IQSC Rajiv Gandhi University, Arunachal Pradesh, I extend a very warm and hearty welcome to each one of you all here. As we have came to our third day of 5-day capacity building program on approaches for quality research paper writing in high impact journals. And today we have three presentations. The first resource person is Professor Vinod Kumar Jain, Vice Chancellor of Tezpur University, Tezpur, Assam. And our second speaker is Professor D.N. Sansanwal, and our third speaker is Dr. Anil Ramachandran. So I welcome you, sir, Professor V.K. Jain, sir, for accepting our invitation and sparing time with us. For your introduction and welcome, I would like to call Professor R.C. Parida, Director IQAC and Director of this program, to formal introduction. R.C. Parida, sir, over to you. Sir, please unmute, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Sambhu. Esteemed participants, Professor Jain, Namaskar, sir.
Namaskar.
So I feel privileged to introduce Professor Jain, a noted and eminent educationist and a noted academic administrator of the India. So Professor Dr. Vinod Kumar Jain, presently the Vice Chancellor of Tezpur University in the Northeast India. Prior to joining to this Tezpur University, he was Vice Chancellor of the Tezpur Doon University, Dehradun. And before joining the Vice Chancellor in the Doon University, Dehradun, he had illustrious career in the field of academics and academic administration as well as research also. So Professor Jain has completed his doctorate in philosophy from Sussex University, Brighton, United Kingdom. He has served 27 years in Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. He had served in the JNU in various capacities, including Dean, Students Welfare, Dean, School of Environmental Sciences, Chief Proctor of the JNU, and to his credit, he was also the acting registrar of the Jawaharlal Nehru University, Delhi. He has conducted extensive academic research in many countries, to name the United States of America, United Kingdom, where he had done extensive academic research in various capacities. To his credit, sir has more than 116 publications of international and national repute. Under him, 31 scholars have completed successfully PhD. 23 scholars have been awarded MPhil. Also, he has completed more than 7 research projects in various academic research assignments. His research interests include magnetized plasma, beam plasma interactions, environmental issues with mathematical modeling, etc. And since school days, he was very genius and had won national level scholarship. He had also junior research fellow and won excellence in academic medal from Hungary. And as far as academics is concerned, he is a reviewer of more than a dozen of national and international journals. He has been actively engaged and also developed curriculums in India and abroad. of very much national and international level universities, and even more than, you can say, numerous. I was going through his biodata and I have just summarized, and it will take another 1 or 2 hours if I go on reading in his biodata to just brief about him. He has numerous invited lectures in India and abroad. So, Professor Jain of a
Thank you.
noted noted academician and luminaries of the country, we are very much pleased to have Sir with us to grace this virtual gathering on the third day of our faculty development program. We welcome to you to this virtual mode of capacity building program, sir. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Parida. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. Uh, First, let me thank uh, the Honorable Vice Chancellor of Rajiv Gandhi University, Professor Parida, the Director, HRDC, and Professor Shambhu Prasadji, uh, Director, Iqac, faculty members from within Rajiv Gandhi University, and perhaps quite a few from outside. A very good afternoon to each one of you. Um, I'm going to share my thoughts with you on how to go about writing a paper or prepare a manuscript for a high impact factor journal. And this will be precisely or essentially based on my own research journey. And I must be candid enough to admit that not all of my papers, 116 or 115, which Professor Farida mentioned, they are all in high impact factor journals. They are certainly not, but yes, quite a few are in a very high impact factor journal. And that has given me, I think, the greatest joy uh, while I was either as a student or as a postdoc or even as a faculty. Having said that, in my time, there were no FDPs of this kind. So I think all the faculty members who are perhaps attending this 5-day workshop, they're very lucky. In our times, we were just told to go to the library, look at the physics abstracts, and we used to very diligently look at the physics abstracts, come up with the references, and look for the journal articles, read them, and then finalized our own research questions. But now that this imperative of publishing in high quality journals is there, which is very much in tune with the quality mandate of UGC and and that of the accreditation agencies, because every university now wants to have a good research profile, and I don't blame the vice chancellor or the administration or the dean academic affairs. I think this imperative of publishing in good journals is not necessarily only for Rajiv Gandhi universities, across the board uh, in all institutions of higher learning, including my own university. So I also keep telling everyone that publish in good impact factor journals. Uh, but more importantly, forget about what the accreditation agencies want or UGC wants. It is for your own satisfaction, for your own joy. When you publish a article in some good impact factor journal, the kind of elation you go through is very difficult to describe. And equally important, it is for your own self-esteem. That is probably for me, it is a very important aspect, because then um, That is, when you publish in a good impact factor journal, then you know that you belong up there with the best in the world in your field. So that is a matter of great satisfaction and gratification. So I think all the faculty members should take it that way, that you are actually, you want to be counted among the best in the academic fraternity in the discipline which you are practicing. Now, quickly, for some of you, I mean, I'm sure you understand, or you must have Googled what is the definition of an impact factor. Um, you know, what it means is that any article from that particular journal, which is supposed to be a quality journal, any article would get cited uh, on average that many number of times, which is represented by impact factor. So let us say there is a journal which has an impact factor of 5. That would mean that an article from that journal, on average, would get cited 5 times, or would have got cited 5 times in that particular year. Uh, so that itself then is the fact that it is getting cited, it just shows that the papers which are published in that journal have intrinsic quality, something which is very credible, which is very reliable, um, about that journal. So that is why this clamor for everyone to publish in those journals. Let me just quickly, before I come to the main task which has been sort of entrusted to me, which is to how to write a good manuscript. Um, but before I do that, just quickly, let me just tell you what are the elements, what are the essentials for a article to be considered of good quality. To begin with, I think some of you already know this, so please forgive me, if I'm sort of repeating something or reiterating something which is too obvious in a thing. So when do you say that an article is a good quality article? It is when either the idea which has been enunciated in that article, or the research question, or the hypothesis is something very novel, is something which is very unique. It could even mean that the kind of methodology which you have used, or the techniques which you have used, or the approach you have employed in addressing that particular research question, that also is somewhat unique or somewhat different from what the approaches others have used. Or maybe you are using the same standard methodology which others have used, but then you have come up with some findings which are very different, or which corroborate the results of somebody. So suppose you are a theoretical person, or you have done some theory work, and your results do corroborate the experimental results of someone else, or vice versa. That you have, you have, instead of giving a theory, that you produce something based on your experimental results, which is much more accurate, which is much more precise. So your measurements are refined compared to someone else's, and somebody then later on produces a theory to explain your results. So that also shows that the kind of quality of your work, for example, I tell you, when I was doing my PhD, we did publish something in physics, phys rev letters. So some of you who are from physics background would vouch for it, that the physical review letter, publishing in that, not in physical review letters is probably the best thing to a physicist. And so when we did this experiment, the results were out, And in no time, there were quite a few theoretical groups who started, you know, get, producing publications explaining our results, because we had not given any theory. So point I'm making is that the quality can also be judged by the fact that if somebody's experimental results are already mentioned in some credible journal, in some high impact factor journal, you produce a theory, then automatically your work becomes of high quality. So that is one. And then the third category of the research work is the one where, it leads to some kind of patent or some kind of innovation. So they all come under the, this wider canvas of quality research work. And to say that, just by writing or just by learning the skills of how to write a good research paper would, would let, um, get you a publication in a journal. I think it will be far too far-fetched. There are no shortcuts. There are no shortcuts for publishing good research articles. A lot of hard work goes into planning an experiment. At least for the experimentalist, I can say that. A lot of hard work goes in designing the experiment, choosing the appropriate measurement technique, and then whatever results you get, and the analysis part, all that has to be very seriously thought out. Um, in case of theory, yes, there are people who have very strong background in mathematics or in quantitative techniques. They can use even a secondary data, not necessarily primary data, and then they can come up with some theoretical models um, for their research study. But to highlight this point, that there are no shortcuts. You have to do meaningful research first. And what is that meaningful research? That um, I would just briefly share my thoughts on that. But in general, one would say that you can't have even when you write a manuscript, you can't have one size fit all kind of prescription for all the disciplines. Social science disciplines have a very different nature, and as opposed to the science disciplines. So social science, humanities would perhaps require a different kind of um, architecture of the manuscript, whereas for the scientists it would be rather of a different nature. But the broad architecture of a manuscript, most of you are aware, is introduction, um, materials and methods, or methodology or methods, um, then results, discussion, and followed by conclusion. And at the end, actually, then the references. So let me just quickly begin with the first part. So you have introduction, which is very crucial part. Then you have methods and methodology, uh, equally important, but not as opposed to the introduction part and the discussion part. In fact, discussion part and the introduction, they are the major part. So concentrate on your introduction, concentrate on the discussion part. The easiest part is the methodology, because you know what methodology you have employed. So I'll come to that, all these points in brief. But to begin with the introduction. So the first and foremost, whatever the broad area of research you are in, you look for uh, the journals in that particular field. I mean, if you have not initiated research. It's for those I'm suggesting this, that you read the, the best journals in your field regularly, and then that would give you a clue that what are the contemporary issues, what are the contemporary research issues people are taking up. So that may help you in crystallizing a research problem or a research question or a research hypothesis. So the important thing is that you read and read and read. Read the journal. Get into the habit of reading the journals. I mean, just don't depend on. Many a times the students say, "Oh, they will go to the faculty supervisor, research supervisor, say, please tell us on what topic we should work." Yes, the supervisor would tell you what to work on, but you also, once you get into this profession of teaching come research, then you better uh, get into this habit of regularly updating yourself about the current status of research in that particular area. So having said that, so the introduction part is so important. So either you have already done some research, then in that case, you you start with the background. You start with the background of the problem, and in that you must give give the references, cite the work the others have done. I mean the citations. You must mention the studies of others. That is in the beginning of the introduction, a general background of the problem, and then this is also possible that in that discipline there might be some terms which you may like to sort of explain in a little detail. So those terms could be defined. If they are too obvious, then you can omit it. But if you think they could be, there is a need to define them, then by all means define them. So the background and some of the terms which you think ought to be defined, then you must define them. And then the current status, of your, the area of your research or the topic which you have chosen. Um, and that, forget about whether it is national or international. Whatever, whoever has done work in that area in the chronological order, in a coherent manner, just put those, the put the extract of the work which has already been done. So the current status, uh, as I said, don't distinguish between national or international. But in those cases where the research question which you are asking or the problem you have addressed in your research work, if that has only a national context or a local context, then certainly then you could segregate the two. In this, on this particular topic, the international studies are these, and then your own, I mean your the researchers in India, they have done this, and this perhaps could be more appropriate for the social science disciplines. But in sciences, for example, people who do basic research or even applied research, you don't distinguish between what the uh, our uh, researchers in India have done or what the international community has done. Uh, so the literature survey, that is very important. So you must mention the current status. Then very clearly you must bring out what is that knowledge gap. What is that knowledge gap? Because that actually prompts you to mention your hypothesis or research problem or research question or the objectives. So this uh, mentioning of the current status would help you in sort of zeroing on the research objectives or research question or hypothesis. Then the next thing which you should mention in your introduction is the approach or the methodology, not in detail, but the methodology or the approach which you are going to use or which you have used in the present work, and with a justification. Is it just some rationale that why you are using this particular technique or a particular measurement technique? Then you must also mention here that what analytical tools or whether they are in terms of statistical analysis or some other tools which you have used for interpreting your data, interpreting your findings. So that also has to be mentioned, that what are the analytical tools which you have used in the present study. Uh, but don't forget to give citations. And why I'm saying this, why it is so important to mention this, is for one most important reason. Many a times when you submit your article to a good journal, it's quite possible that your manuscript has gone to someone who is already a practicing researcher in your area, in your area of research. And if he or she has published quite a bit, and you have uh, inadvertently, not purposely, inadvertently has left out the work of that, or you have failed to cite the work of that individual, many a times, the comments which are when you get the comments from the reviewers, you will find that they do mention that so and so article is not cited, or the authors have to update themselves, the current status and so on. So the point I'm making is, make a sincere effort. It doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't belittle your contribution. But if somebody has done something, you know, uh, don't fail to mention that in the introduction itself. So introduction, the uh, the citations are is very important, because most of the references later on at the end of the manuscript, you would find that whatever you have mentioned in the introduction, they figure in the references list later on. Okay, so that is a very crucial point. About the methods, materials, well, again, there is no one single prescription here, because, as I said in the beginnings, the social science disciplines, humanities have a very different character. And so if the study is of a kind, where you require the primary data, then in that case, you have the study area, the sampling size, the sampling intervals. So in the materials uh, and methods, you have to mention all those aspects, not in too detail, because the materials and methods should form a maybe hardly 10% of your of the entire manuscript. It should not cover 30% or 40%. As I said, introduction and discussion, they should be the major component of your manuscript. So to come back to this materials and methods, so social scientists would have a study area, sampling sites, then what is the sampling interval, what sampling criteria you have used, don't fail to mention that. So all that has to be mentioned. In case of the experimentalists, you will have to give the experimental design. In some cases, when the experimental design is something which is little different from what the others have used, then do give a sketch, a schematic of that diagram, of that experimental design or experimental setup. But one important thing is that whatever equipment you have used, you must, you know, uh, must mention the brand or the model number of that instrument. This is crucial because sometimes you don't mention anything, and then again the referee's comments would come and they say we don't know which. I mean it's not very clear from the manuscript which instrument was used, because when you mention the brand and the model number, whoever is the reviewer would just quickly come to know what this instrument does, how accurate it is, whether the measurements are precise or not precise. So I think this is crucial. Then the techniques or methods of analysis. So in the case of social scientists, as I said, the nature of the manuscript will be very different. Perhaps you use a variety of statistical techniques, multivariate techniques, whether it is principal component analysis or uh, HCA, hierarchical cluster analysis, or vector autoregressive models or modeling technique, or you use any time series thing or whatever, to look for trends. But the point is that whatever statistical technique you use, you must mention that. You must mention that right in the materials and method. Not in detail, but you must make a reference to it, what technique you have used for analyzing your data. And one more thing is that don't write in the, because this is materials and methods. So whatever, since you have done the work already, in case you have already done the work, then obviously everything has to be in the past tense. Uh, don't write in the present tense. Everything has to be in the past tense. Okay, so this is the care you have to take. And as I said, methodology part, don't make it very big. Then the results. Results, of course, to begin with, you will have, all these figures and tables. But right in the beginning, you don't put them. You start with some text, but the text would be actually explaining or mentioning those results only in the text form, although they are also depicted in the graph form, or they are already there in the table. But broadly, what those results are, you just mention those. Here the discussion is not required, but but make sure that the 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 order in which the details are mentioned, details of these results are mentioned, they are more or less in the same sequence, the sequence in which you have your objectives, which you have mentioned in your introduction. So whatever is the research question or a couple of research questions or research objectives, so in the same order, you arrange your results. So that is something which you should bear in mind. It should not be that you discuss something first. I mean, you present the results of something first, some measurements first, and then another set of measurements. So there has to be a sequence, and that sequence has to be more or less the same as that of the objectives. But the toughest part, in fact, the most crucial part of any manuscript, is the discussion part. Now, here you have to be very careful. You must be conversant with these statistical tools, or whatever the tools you have used in interpreting your data. Now, just simply saying that uh, this particular variable or whatever you have measured is increasing, or it is decreasing, or it shows some cyclic variation or some such thing. But unless you explain as to why this is happening, as to why a particular pattern is being observed, why there is a particular trend. So that explanation has to be credible and has to be appropriate to the uh, behavior of those observations or the pattern of the observation or the trends. So this is something where you should have to be very careful. If you want your manuscript to be published in a very good journal, the explanation has to be credible. It has to be, as I said, it should not be simply descriptive that is going up or it is going down or it is um, increasing, decreasing, or whatever. And this is where, most of the researchers would do well to get conversant with the, distributions, for example, the statistical distributions. I think this is across the board, even for science people. Uh, I think it's important that we get familiar with various types of distributions, whether it is normal or Poisson or any other type, chi-square distribution, T distribution, F distribution, or whatever you have. So you must get familiar with all these distributions. At the same time, you must also don't depend on somebody just, even if you have collaborated with someone, don't depend on what they tell you. Oh, this T value is this much or this F value is this much, and therefore, you know, you can accept or reject some hypothesis or something. Don't just believe it like that. And you yourself, if you want to be a good researcher, you must get to the grip, or you must understand all these concepts, basic concept, basic statistics. You must familiarize yourself with. So that is important. And when you mention the results, don't forget that whenever you are mentioning some mean value or average value, this, you must mention the standard deviation, plus minus whatever. And also on your graphs, it is important that you have the error bars. That is also very important. So mention those error bars. Um, then in the discussion, what you should clearly bring out that your results, or after the interpretation, your results to meet certain objective, the objectives which are already mentioned in your introduction part or that research question. So whatever you discuss in this section has to be geared towards that objective. So this is important, that that point has to be clearly borne out. If whatever you set out, uh, whatever was your goal in terms of that particular investigation or measurement or whatever, have you succeeded in that, or to what extent? If you have not succeeded, fine, but or maybe it has not explained, maybe the result which you wanted is not there, but then you must uh, your findings should be very clear, whether they support your hypothesis or they are giving you a new information about the impact or effect of something on something. So all that has to be very clearly brought out in the uh, in the discussion part. So the findings are, have to be very clearly mentioned. And if there are any limitations, that also you should mention. If there is any limitation of your technique or of your work, or you have not been able to, for example, if your research paper is of the kind wherein you, somebody has given a theory and you have carried out some experiments. So those experimental results, maybe they are not that accurate. Maybe they are not so precise, but broadly they conform to the theoretical predictions or the theoretical results of somebody else, then you must mention, as I said, the error bars or whatever is the in your uncertainty in your findings. So you must mention the limitations. And here it is also very important that if somebody has done something similar elsewhere, of a similar nature, not necessarily the same work, but something of a similar nature elsewhere, then you must also highlight the fact whether your findings are basically corroborating somebody else's results also, or or they are in conformity with somebody else's results, which has those results which are already published in a high impact factor journal. So as I said in the beginning, that if whatever work you do, if you are able to explain the experimental observations of someone else by giving your theory, or you produce your experimental results to support the theoretical predictions of someone else, I think in both situations, if the other person's work is already published in a high impact factor journal, then the 90% chances are, 95% chances are that your work will also get accepted in a high impact factor journal. And then finally, the conclusion part. And here also, you know, when I said that when you are comparing your results with others or corroborating the results of others, you don't forget to mention the citation. Of course, you have to mention the, you know, you have to cite the reference of that work. In the conclusion part, uh, whatever research questions you had set out with, or the objectives you had set out with, you have to mention whether uh, you know, what are your findings against those objectives briefly, but very precise, because the conclusion part is not very, need not, it should not be very big. Discussion part is yes, but the conclusion part has to be rather brief, against whatever your findings against the objectives you set out with in the beginning. And then finally, you must ask yourself that whether my work has pushed the boundaries of my discipline. Has it has this work added to the knowledge in that particular research field? So if your work is such that it does add the uh, to the domain knowledge in that particular area, then that also you should mention that this has implications for such and such a thing, or this has this significance, or a similar work could be done, or similar methodology could be implemented for a different research problem. So, or maybe your methodology, if it is which is which which you have tested for this work, because if your, as I said, if your results are in conformity with somebody else's already published work, then of course the methodology which you have used, even if it's a different methodology, that means that methodology has a certain credibility. It means that it has a certain it is certainly valid. So so that also you can mention in the conclusion, that if it is a new methodology, if it is standard one, I don't think something is little different from the approach which others have used, then I think you must mention in the conclusion. And finally, the references. Of course, you know, every journal has its instruction to authors. So just follow the guidelines of that particular journal. Whether, I mean, they would have mentioned what style of referencing is to be used uh, for submitting the manuscript in that journal. It could be Vancouver, it could be there are host of them. It could be American, what is that, Psychological Association, and there are Harvard style and Oxford style, and some of these are very discipline specific. So uh, you just follow that. That is also very important, that you follow the citation style of that particular journal. And finally, what I would suggest, so this is as far as how to write a good research paper. I mean, to the best of my knowledge, that's what should be the architecture of any research manuscript. But some of you who probably have just entered the field or um, got into research recently, then I think it's important that you you update your skills on a variety of aspects. And one thing I would suggest, at least for social science people, that get yourself trained in quantitative techniques. Maybe the economics guys or mathematics guys or the statistics guys, they can help you in this. But do either you work in a collaborative mode with a statistical, statistics person or a economics person, so that to begin with, you get familiar with all these techniques. But you have to make an effort to learn all these techniques yourself, and that is all these statistical tools you must know yourself. What is T statistics? What is F statistics? What is ANOVA? How to interpret results of ANOVA? Not that you have given it to someone and somebody has given you a printout of all your ANOVA results and told you something, but you must understand yourself what those results mean, how to interpret yourself. Eventually, you have to learn all that. So, and that is for the social scientists. And one more thing I would recommend to every social science person is the training in GIS. Please also get trained in GIS, because many a times when you present your results, so not simply in terms of your tables and graphs, but if you can use GIS where you can overlay multiple data, then I think that enriches the quality of your paper. So my advice to all my friends in the social science discipline would be that please, or in areas like environmental science, for example, because it also requires a lot of data collection, and whether it is from primary sources or secondary sources. So GIS is equally important. So familiarity with the statistical techniques, and then how to use those softwares. Most of the central universities now have uh, these softwares on their universities, some kind of platform, so they will be available to you. Um, so these are the things which you have to keep in mind. And finally, I would just say that when you are thinking of a research problem, it could be maybe there is a system you want to model, or you want to gain an insight in a systemic process, or gain an insight into a mechanism, um, or as a, if the already some experimental results are there in public domain, but theory exists, then you try yourself to come up with some kind of theoretical framework or some kind of mechanism which could explain those experimental results. So if you are able to do that, then chances are that your research would be of good quality, and you will be able to publish in good journals. But as I said in the beginning, there are no shortcuts. There are no shortcuts for publishing in high impact factor journals. You have to slog it out. You have to make a sincere effort, honest effort in your research pursuits, and never be in a hurry to publish, unless you feel convinced that whatever research questions I set out with, those to some extent they have been, you know, sort of the objectives have been met, only then you should think of publishing. Don't worry sometimes, because some disciplines uh, can afford you the opportunity of publishing too frequently. There are disciplines where, you know, somebody would very boastfully would say, oh, I have published 10 papers this year, or 8 papers, or 7 papers, or 9 papers, or so. Just don't go by that. You don't have to, you know, follow the examples of others. Even if you publish one good quality paper, to my mind, over a period of 2 years, which people will be citing elsewhere, I think it's worth an effort. It's worth an effort rather than publishing 20 papers or 18 papers, which the international community does not even bother to cite. So so with these words, I am open to any questions. If somebody wants to ask me, to the best of all my ability, I will try to uh,
Uh,
answer those questions.
thank you so much, sir. We can, with your permission, we can have some of the questions. I have noted one question that Dr. Sorry, Nanang Rasmi Thamo asking that difference between research question and research objective.
Ah, you could have one research objective, one research question, but it may have many objectives. Okay.
Yes, yes. You
Say,
want
for
to?
example, for example, if I say that a study of the impact of something on something, some system or whatever. Now, in in looking at that final result of what is that impact, you might have to make a series of measurements, right? Maybe by varying some parameters. So your objectives would have all those possibilities within the objectives, but your research question is one. Research question is impact of such and such thing on whatever. Okay.
One more question is there, sir, in the chat box that it is the question by Sine Sam asking that conclusion. In conclusion, what is better to write? A summary of finding or a non-technical interpretation of the result?
No, summary of findings,
Summary of findings. Yes.
but brief, to the point. Summary of findings, I said in the beginning, summary of findings which are in relation to the objectives, which you have already mentioned in the, yeah,
Yes.
don't go beyond that.
And
But in the conclusion, you must also mention, I probably forgot, that is there any scope for further work or further extension of your research work?
yes, that is means a
Or
recommendation,
the, yeah,
suggestion type of things we can.
yeah, or the implications of your work.
Yes. Mhm. And last question, sir, from Ravi Karar. He's asking there, is there any thumb rule of choosing research tool in social science research while doing or while conducting research?
As I say, there is no thumb rule, by the way. There is, you see, there is no thumb rule. But my advice to you would be that in your field, look at the top journals. You know, UGC had this care list, right?
Yes.
Uh, there are two categories now. So look at the top journals in your field, make a regular habit of reading those journals. And, you know, the area of your research interest, you must identify papers and just keep reading and reading and, you know, keep reading them. You will come across what, you know, over a period of time, you would know that, you know, while you address as I said, a research question or a hypothesis. What are the approaches, or what is the methodology used, or what is the technique used? What are the statistical tools which are used? So you get familiar with all those.
Uh, Thank you so much, sir. So here we have came to an end of our session one. And one line I would say that education is the most profitable investment for the near future. Uh, Thank you, sir. We are greatly encouraged by your gracious presence and immensely benefited by your inspiring words. It was very amazing session by you. We learned a lot and benefited by your talk. You have thrown light on all the aspects of writing a manuscript, like how to write a quality paper. You have focused on the introduction part, review part, methodology, result, discussion. You have covered all the aspects, what to do and what not to do. Means what we have to follow and what we don't have to follow. You have covered all the aspects, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for accepting our invitation and delivered so nice talk. Once again, I thank you from the core of my heart.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. So now we have with us Professor Professor Dayanand Sansanwal. He is already joined with us. Uh,
Yes, I have joined.
yes, yes. Thank you, sir.
Ah.
Uh, Thank you so much. That we know that you are very particular about the time, and as committed you are in time. So without wasting time, I call Dr. Rajesh Chakravarti, member IQSC and head Department of Chemistry, to kindly welcome you and introduce you. Rajesh, sir.
Thank you, Sambhu sir. It is a great pleasure to introduce Professor Sansanwal again in this capacity building program. In fact, I introduced him only yesterday, and it is a great pleasure that I've been interested to introduce Professor D.N. Sansanwal again. We have listened to him yesterday. He is very lucid talk about going to minutest of the detail, how to even write a title of a thesis, and then following on and going up to like how to set up a hypothesis and all those minor critical details which we often miss. So for the formal part, Professor Sansanwal retired as a head and dean, Faculty of Education of Devi Ahilya University, Indore. He holds an MSc degree in physics while he did his PhD in education. So he is from both fields. Perhaps that's why he is kind of a treasure trove of knowledge. Uh, that's why perhaps he can speak both for science and for social sciences also. His areas of specialization are research methodology, experimental design, advanced educational statistics, educational measurement and evaluation, educational technology, science education, computer education, and information and communication technology. Professor Sansanwal has taught in IIM Indore and Indian Institute of Foreign Trade, IIFT New Delhi, where he taught business research methods and quantitative techniques. He has conducted numerous workshops on research methodology, statistics, and use of SPSS, the statistical software. In fact, Professor Sansanwal, to his credit, has invented JERT technology, multiple discriminant type items, multiple answer type items, educational clinic, etc. He has been awarded with Best Teacher Educator Award by All India Association of Teacher Educators India. Thank you, and I welcome Professor Sansanwal to deliver his talk. Thank you, sir.
Okay, I just want to ask, do I have 1 hour or more than 1 hour?
You have 1 hour, sir.
Only 1 hour.
You
Okay,
you can take, sir, 10 minutes for discussion
all right.
apart
Okay,
from 1 hour.
okay. Thank you very much. Dear friends, I'm DN Sansanwal and this is my email address. Today, I was asked to talk about the interpretation of the results, but I thought we must talk about the presentation of the result along with the interpretation. Without presentation of the result, we cannot go to interpretation. So without wasting time, let me tell you the sequence. Say, I will give you the objectives because the wording of the objective must be very, very, very specific. And when you write the wording of the objective, it will tell you which statistical technique will be used to analyze the data. Okay, all right. So therefore, I will give you a lot of examples. Then I will tell you how exactly a hypothesis has to be formulated. And then if time permits, I will take one example and use SPSS. I know some of you must be knowing SPSS. So use SPSS to analyze the data, and then from that particular data, how do I test my hypothesis and how do I interpret my result? This what I will try to tell you. Okay, all right. See, if suppose you want to analyze your data with the help of a correlated t-test, then your objective should be worded like this: to compare mean scores of achievement in mathematics. If I am taking achievement in mathematics as one of the variables, then to compare mean scores of achievement in mathematics of student before and after teaching mathematics through online. Now, this is the objective when you have to use pre-test, post-test, single group design. If that is the design, then this should be the objective, and you have to, the layout of that, it is an experimental study. So the layout will be something like this. You take one group, then you pre-test it, and then you give it treatment. X represents the treatment, O represents the assessment of the dependent variable. In experimental study, you have to use the word dependent variable. So therefore, you assess the dependent variable before the treatment and after the treatment. And the hypothesis for this particular objective is there is no significant difference between mean scores of achievement in mathematics of students before and after teaching mathematics through online. Okay, let me take another one. If you have to analyze your data with the help of a t-test, then what should be the objective? The objective should be to compare mean scores of reading comprehension. If reading comprehension is my variable, then to compare mean scores of reading comprehension of male and female students. Because in t-test, you should have two independent groups, and one is male, other is female. Or you should have one variable which has got two levels like male and female, and gender is one variable. So it has two levels like male and female. For this particular objective, if you have to write a hypothesis, it should be something like this. There is no significant difference between mean scores of reading comprehension of male and female students. Now, you see the objective and then you see the hypothesis. If you have worded your objective pinpointedly, then wording of the hypothesis is not at all a problem, because you just have to remove to compare these two words from the objective, and just you have to write there is no significant difference between. And we are formulating the hypothesis in the null form because for directional, we do not have a strong evidence. Okay, and I'm sure you must have studied hypothesis and you must have studied how the hypothesis has to be formulated, why it is in the present tense. Yesterday also I told you that. Okay, if I have one way ANOVA, then I have to have objective something like this, to compare mean scores of achievement in mathematics of students studying in government, aided and private colleges. If I'm taking colleges, then these are the three independent groups, and here the variable is achievement in mathematics. So therefore, this is my objective, and if this is the objective, then I have to use one way ANCOVA, provided the assumptions of one way ANCOVA are satisfied by the data which the researcher will be collecting. And for this objective, the hypothesis should be something like this. There is no significant difference between mean scores of achievement in mathematics of students studying in government, aided and private colleges. Suppose if I want to write objective whose data I want to analyze with the help of two-way ANCOVA, two-way ANOVA, then my objective should be something like this, to study the effect. Once I say effect, means it has to be an experimental study, because the moment the effect word is there, at yesterday I told you, if you are using the word effect, then it has to be an experimental study. It cannot be the survey study. So the objective is to study the effect of methods of teaching, gender, because it is two-way ANOVA, so you must have two variables, and each variable must have two levels. Before this, the example I gave you, one-way ANOVA, that means one variable having more than two levels. If you have one variable and if there are only two levels or two independent groups, then you can analyze your data with the help of t-test. But if you want to analyze with the help of one-way ANOVA, you can analyze and both the results will be same, whether you use t-test or you use one-way ANOVA, there will be no difference. That is why when you have one variable having two levels, researchers normally use t-test. They do not use one-way ANOVA because the steps of one-way ANOVA calculations are slightly difficult as compared to t-test. Otherwise, you can use no problem. But when I say two-way ANOVA, that means there must be minimum two variables, and these two variables are discontinuous variable, and they must have minimum two categories or two levels. If you have the two levels of each, then it is this one, the two variables, so it is two-way ANOVA. If method of teaching has got two levels and gender has got two levels, then another name of this statistical technique will be 2 by 2 factorial design ANOVA. But suppose one variable has got two levels and another variable has got 4 levels, then we call it 2 by 4 factorial design ANOVA. So if you have one variable having n level and another variable having m level, then you can say n by m factorial design ANOVA. If you don't want to use this, you can say two-way ANOVA. But two-way ANOVA word is not very clear in comparison to when you say 2 by 2 factorial design ANOVA, or when you say 2 by 3 factorial design ANOVA. Now, this immediately indicates that one variable has got 2 levels and another variable has got 3 levels. So choice is yours, whether you want to write the name of that as a factorial design or you don't want to write. Choice is yours. So in this particular objective, if this is the objective, that to study the effect of methods of teaching, gender, and their interaction on achievement in economics of students. Now, in this particular objective, you can find out that how many questions are in this particular objective. I have written objective in the sentence form, so that is why it is objective. If I have to write research question, it must be in the question form. Okay, and both will remain exactly the same. There is no difference between research question and objective. Okay, and both have to be specific, pinpointed. It is not that one is broader and another is narrower. Absolutely no. It is up to you whether you want to write objective or you want to write the research questions. So in this particular objective, if you analyze it, you will get the 3 results. One result will be related to the effect of methods of teaching on achievement in economics. One result related to this. Another result related to effect of gender on achievement in economics. And the third result will be related to effect of methods of teaching and effect of interaction between methods of teaching and gender on achievement in economics. I have written only one objective. If you like, you can write 3 objectives, but all these 3 objectives will be A, B, C, because with the help of one analysis, you can get the answer of all the 3. Absolutely no problem. And for this objective, the hypothesis will be there is no significant effect of methods of teaching, gender, and their interaction on achievement in economics of students. I have another one. For the 3-way ANOVA, the objective is like this: to study the influence. The moment I write the word influence, it means it is in survey research. In the earlier case, I wrote the word effect. That means it was an experimental study. So these words are very, very important because they indicate the methods of the research. So to study the influence of gender, types of college, area, and their various interactions on reading comprehension of students. Now, in this particular, why did I say 3-way? Because there are 3 variables, and these 3 are the discontinuous variable, and these are gender, types of college, and area. So that is why it is called 3-way ANOVA. Suppose gender has got 2 levels, types of college has got 3 levels, and area has got 2 levels, then I can say 2 by 3 by 2 factorial design ANOVA. Now the choice is yours, whether you want to write three-way ANOVA or you want to write in terms of factorial design. The choice is yours. Now, if this is the objective, in this objective, you know how many findings will be there. If some of you have done the three-way, then you know that there will be 7 findings. Okay, one is for gender, other is for types of college, another is for area. These are the 3 variables. So these are called main effect. Then there will be 3 interactions. First order interaction, one interaction between gender and types of college, gender and area, types of college and area. These are the 3 first order interaction. And the second order interaction will be the interaction among gender, types of college and area. So objective is 1, but you will get 7 findings. If you want to write 7 objectives, you can write, but you have to write A, B, C, D. If it is the 5th objective, then 5A, 5B, 5C, 5D, 5E, 5F, and so on and so forth. This is how exactly you have to write. And if this is my objective, then my hypothesis is something like this. There is no significant influence of gender, types of college, area, and their various interactions on reading comprehension of students. So this is the objective and the hypothesis if you want to analyze your data with the help of three-way ANOVA. Let's go to ANCOVA. If I have the one which is one-way and ANCOVA, I'm sure you know the difference between ANOVA and ANCOVA. In case of ANCOVA, actually ANCOVA is a statistical technique which can help the researcher in controlling the intervening variables. Because when you conduct an experimental study, then there are many intervening variables and you have to control them. And in order to control those intervening variables, there are different methods of control. One of the methods of control is statistical control. And that statistical control is through the technique of ANCOVA. Okay, so I give you one objective, how the wording has to be there, and you can see the difference between the objective wording when you want to analyze data with the help of one-way ANOVA, and if you want to write an objective whose data you want to analyze with the help of one-way ANCOVA, then the difference will be there. Now you can see the difference. This is the objective. And here to compare adjusted mean scores. The moment you write the word adjusted, that means you are now talking about ANCOVA. Because when I wrote the objective for ANOVA, I did not use the word adjusted. I only used the word to compare mean scores of this. And here I'm saying adjusted. And when it has to be adjusted, you read further. To compare adjusted mean scores of achievement in economics of male and female students by considering their reasoning as covariate. Because reasoning and achievement in economics are interrelated. And since they are interrelated, so I want to control reasoning. And when I want to control reasoning, I'm controlling through the statistical use of the statistical technique, and whatever variable you want to control through the statistical technique, the measurement, the scale of measurement must be either interval scale or ratio scale. If you do not have data on interval scale or ratio scale, then you cannot analyze with the help of t-test. You cannot analyze with the help of one-way ANOVA, two-way ANOVA, three-way ANOVA, one-way ANCOVA, two-way ANCOVA, etc., etc. So your data must be strong data. Let's say for this, the hypothesis is simple. There is no significant difference between adjusted mean scores of achievement in economics of male and female students by considering their reasoning as a covariate. Here I have taken one covariate. If you want, you can take two covariates, you can take three covariates, you can take four covariates. There is no limit. Only important is whatever the covariates that you want to take, the scale of measurement must be either interval or ratio. If you have a scale of measurement on nominal or ordinal, you cannot then use ANCOVA. Okay, let us say the two-way ANCOVA. The objective must be like this. As we had two-way ANOVA, so there were two discontinuous variables. So here also there will be two discontinuous variables. And these are to study the effect of methods of teaching and gender. So method of teaching is one variable which is discontinuous. Gender is another variable which is discontinuous, and their interaction on achievement in physics of students by considering their pre-achievement in physics and reasoning as covariates. Now, in this particular objective, you are able to see that there are two covariates. One is pre-achievement in physics as one covariate, and another is reasoning. If some of you know experimental design, this is the objective for the experimental design, and name of the design is non-equivalent control group design. Okay, so in that case, this should be the objective. Like this you should write. And for this, the hypothesis will be there is no significant effect of methods of teaching, gender, and their interaction on achievement in physics of students by considering their pre-achievement in physics and reasoning of students as covariates. Okay, let's take the three-way ANCOVA. The objective is to study the effect of methods of teaching, gender, area. So these are the three variables, and each of them, they have the two categories, because methods of teaching may be two or three, whatever it is. Gender is two, area is two. So all the three variables are discontinuous variable, and continuous variable is your achievement in management, and that's all. So therefore, in this case, you will get the answer of 7 questions, and the objective is to study the effect of methods actually, it should be methods of teaching, gender, area, and their various interactions on achievement in management of students by taking their pre-achievement in management as covariate. Here I have taken only one covariate. And the hypothesis is now very easy to write. There is no significant effect of methods of teaching, gender, area, and their various interactions on achievement in management of students by taking their pre-achievement in management as covariate. Okay. So now, if you have to analyze the data with the help of correlation, there are different methods of correlation. One is product movement correlation, which is normally used, and your data must be either on interval scale or on the ratio scale, and the objective should be something like this: to study correlation between achievement in management and self-confidence of students. Here variables are two: achievement in management, and you will have data on the interval scale, and self-confidence, again you will have data on the interval scale. And if this is the objective, then you have to analyze it with the help of product movement correlation, or its another name is Carl Pearson product movement correlation. Okay. And the hypothesis will be something like this: there is no significant correlation between achievement in management and self-confidence of students. So see, if your objective is pinpointed, then writing hypothesis is not a problem. It's very easy. Let's go to another one. If you know partial correlation, the objective should be like this: to study the correlation between achievement in mathematics and reasoning by partialing out the effect of study habits and anxiety of students. Now, here, you know, the different variables are achievement in mathematics, another is reasoning, another is study habits, and another is anxiety. And the data of all these four variables will be on interval scale. And when you are finding the correlation, you are finding correlation between two variables at a time, and rest of the variables you are keeping constant, or you are partialing out their effect. And when you are partialing out their effect, or another word is you are keeping them constant statistically. So this is another technique. One was ANCOVA, another is partial correlation, which you can use in order to control some of the intervening variables if you like. And for this objective, the hypothesis is there is no significant correlation. Do not write to study the partial correlation. No. Partial correlation is a technique, statistical technique. But that statistical technique will tell whether there is a correlation between the two variables or not. I'm sure you know the difference between correlation and association. I'm not going to tell you that because it will take time. All right. Hypothesis is there is no significant correlation between achievement in mathematics and reasoning, but by partialing out the effect of study habits and anxiety of students. Now, if I want to use another one, which is called multiple correlation, and multiple correlation is a statistical technique which will help you to find out the joint contribution of two or more variables in predicting a variable. I repeat, multiple correlation is a statistical technique which will help the researcher in answering the joint contribution of two or more variables in predicting a variable. Okay, so the objective is something like this: to study the joint contribution of reasoning, study habits, and self-confidence of students in predicting their achievement in economics. You know, reasoning is related with achievement in economics, study habit is also related with achievement in economics, and self-confidence is also related with achievement. So they are joint contribution. And the hypothesis in the null form is there is no significant joint contribution of reasoning, study habits, and self-confidence of students in predicting their achievement in economics. Let's go to regression. Some of you might have heard about the word regression. Regression is a statistical technique which will help the researcher in finding the answer of the two questions. Number one, the individual contribution. Multiple correlation tells you the joint contribution, and regression analysis will help you to find the individual contribution. Okay, if the joint contribution is 30%, then what is the individual contribution of each variable, whatever you have taken in your study, so that you know which variable is contributing more in comparison to the another variable. This is the one question that can be answered. Another is, if you want to have an equation which you want to use for prediction purposes, and that is called a regression equation. So in the regression analysis, my objectives will be something like this. One objective will be to study the individual contribution of reasoning, study habits, and self-confidence of students in predicting their achievement in economics. For the multiple correlation, I had written to study the joint contribution. And now if I'm writing individual contribution, then I cannot use multiple correlation. I have to use the regression analysis. Okay. And the other objective is like this, to establish regression equation for predicting achievement in economics of students on the basis of their reasoning, study habits, and self-confidence. You see, the first and the second, you can see the wording. Wording is very important, dear friends, because I have seen, and you also have seen, on the Shodh Ganga, there are objectives which are not appropriate or correctly worded. There is too much ambiguity in all these, too much confusion. I don't understand why people cannot write pinpointed objective, and it's very easy. So these are the two objectives, and if these are the objectives, then I have to analyze my data with the help of a regression analysis. I cannot use any other technique. So if your wording of the objective is pinpointed, you need not to ask anyone which statistical technique you should use to analyze the data, because there will be one and only one statistical technique that you will be using, provided your data fulfills the assumption of that statistical technique. It goes without saying. Once I say you analyze it with the help of this, so that means the assumptions must be satisfied. And if these are the two objectives, let me see what can be the hypothesis. The hypothesis for the first is there is no significant individual contribution of reasoning, study habits, and self-confidence of students in predicting their achievement in economics. Okay, so therefore there is an objective and there is a corresponding hypothesis. Now, for the second objective, you cannot have any hypothesis because you cannot test it. You have to have hypothesis only and only if it can be tested, because in my objective was to establish regression equation. And when you are establishing the regression equation, you cannot study the significance, etc., etc. Absolutely no. So you should know for which objective the hypothesis must be formulated and for which objective the hypothesis cannot be formulated. It's a very important thing. You must have studied when you studied hypothesis. All right, fine. Let's proceed. Now I will go to the next aspect. That was the first aspect that I was to interpret. Now I can't interpret without having objective, without having hypothesis, and without having the data. So now I'm going to my SPSS, and in my SPSS, I will now hope you will be able to see my SPSS. So this is my SPSS and this is my Word file. So what I'm doing is, let me take one objective and I am writing this objective. I'm increasing its font size so that all of you can see it very well. I'm sure you can see it. Suppose I take my objective like this.
No, sir. Sir, it is not visible. We cannot see.
It's not visible.
This objective you are talking about. Let us take one along with data and analyze it with the help of SPSS and interpret the result.
I have gone to the another one.
No, sir. It is not visible.
That's not a okay. All right.
You have to. You again go screen share, sir.
I know that. I know. You don't worry.
Okay, fine, sir.
I'll do that. All right, I can. All right, then I will share this. Okay, I have to do them separately. Okay, is it all right now?
Yes, sir.
Then I can share my other also because I will be using that also. Are you able to see this also?
Yes, now I can see.
Okay, all right. So this is my the Word file. You are able to see Word file?
No, SPSS file we can see, sir.
What file are you not able to see?
No.
Oh my God, this is the problem in this. Because
Yes,
if you go to this StreamYard, then you can, of course, use it, no problem. All right, let me then first. God. Then let me first share this and then I have to shift. Is it all right?
now what file is here?
This is Word file. Okay. Now I am writing to compare mean scores of reasoning of male and female students. Suppose this is my objective, then my hypothesis will be something like this. Now I can copy and paste and write my hypothesis. Because if I write another one, so my hypothesis will be that there is no significant difference in mean scores of reasoning of male and female students. So please remember that if this is my objective and this is my hypothesis, now I have to go to my SPSS. So remember, my variables are, one variable is a reasoning and it is a continuous variable, and my another variable is a gender, which is. So now I go to I share with you my, all right. Are you able to see now this SPSS file? Hello, Shambhu.
Yes, sir.
Are you able to see?
Yes, SPSS file we can see.
So I have to shift. And anyway, that's okay. All right. So some of you might have used SPSS, and therefore you know that first of all, these are the variables. So I have to define the variables. So I go to the variable view, and here, because my variables are two, one is gender, other is reasoning. So I can write any variable name first. There is no sequence. If I say gender first, then gender, and I just press. Now these all are by default. Now gender is a discontinuous variable, and here it has got two levels. Now what are these two levels? I go to the variable values, and then I say one. If I one is males, you can say one female, because one is a code. It is not the weight. So if I say one means male, and if I say two means female, so this is how I have defined. So I can go ahead. Now another is my reasoning. So I can, and reasoning is a continuous variable. So that's fine, nice. Now what I do is I go to my data view. Okay, so now on the screen you see that I have the two columns. In one column it is gender, another column is reasoning. So I have to enter the information. My first sheet, if I see, and if it is female, then I say 2. I see the score, say maximum score is 50, and here it is 25, though I say 25. I go to the second sheet, and this is also for female, and here the reasoning is 29. So either I can go one sheet for both the information, or I can enter the complete information for gender first, and then complete information for the reasoning. Or first I enter the reasoning information, then the gender. The choice is yours. So I'm just entering the information, and this I'm entering randomly. I do not have the data, so I'm just, because I have to, so that tell you how the interpretation has to be done. So if these are my, the data say I have 48, now I can go from the bottom to the top, because I have to enter just the reasoning score, and my maximum was 50. So I'm just entering. So you can see. So if you have the SPSS ready, then you can enter the data along with me. Otherwise, just have patience. I'm just finishing within no time. And I'm just entering without looking anything. Okay, I have entered the data. Now I want to analyze. So I go to analyze, and since I have to compare means, then you know there are two levels of gender. So I have to use t-test. And if I have to use t-test, then I know that t-test is okay. So now I have to analyze. So I go to analyze, and because I want to compare the means, so therefore I compare means, and I use what is called independent sample t-test. So one name is independent sample t-test, another name is t-test, another name is students t-test. So I request that all of you must know the different names of the statistical technique, because sometimes one technique has got not one name, but more than one name. Sometimes they have one name, that finite. So I go to independent samples. Now, this is the, I hope you are able to see this. Now, Shambhu, are you able to see?
Yes, yes.
Right. So now the grouping variable is gender. So I just shift the gender here. And as soon as I shifted the gender, now there are two question marks. So define the groups. I just click here. I have to define, one was male, other was female. The male was represented by 1 and female by 2. So I have written 1 and 2. If you like, you can write 2 and 1. It does not make a difference whether you can compare male with female or females with male. It doesn't make a difference. So I will do that and show it to you. All right. Now here is a test variable. The variable whose means I want to compare. So it is a reasoning whose means I want to compare. So I have to shift it here. And now, OK is active. Let us see options. Here, the level of significance is already 0.05. Okay, so therefore it is 95% confidence. So either you say level of significance or you say confidence interval, both are same. If it is confidence interval, you talk in terms of percentage, 95%, 99%. If it is level of significance, you talk in terms of 0.01 or 0.05. Level means error. Okay, so it is okay, fine, 95, continue, I continue. And this is my result. And now you can see that I have male and I have female. I have males were 26 and females are 22. Okay, and the mean in case of male is 29.35 because it is 346. So since after 4 it is 6, so 1 is automatically increased. You know this one. And for female it is 27.73. Okay, and the standard deviation in case of male it is 5.11. In case of female it is 5.90. And the t-value here, you can see the t-value. The t-value is 1.018. So 1.02, and it is not significant. Please understand, this is important because this 11th test of equality of variances. So equal variances assumed. If this is condition satisfied, then I have to take the upper value of the t. If equal variance is not assumed, then I have to take the lower value of the t. Now in this case, equal variance is assumed condition is satisfied because that this f value is not significant, because here the error is 28%. In the 11th test of equality of variances, so here the significance is given 0.280. And if you multiply by 100, it is 28%. So 28% error. And as a researcher, you cannot do more than 5% error. So this is not significant. And if it is not significant, then the condition equal variances assumed has been satisfied. Then I should take the t-value as 1.018. So 1.02. And the degree of freedom here is 46. Okay. And here, this t-value, you can see the significance in this t-value. It is 0.314 multiplied by 100. So it comes to 31.4% error. So that is what is the error. So this error is more than 5%. So that means this t-value is not satisfied. is not significant. Okay, so let me see how do I test my hypothesis and how do I interpret my result. So I need mean of male and female, standard deviation, and n and p-value. I have noted down. Let me share now the other file, and that file is the document file. Now I'm going to share it with you. Now you know this objective which I wrote. Now from this objective, you have to write the caption heading. Now, can you tell me what will be the caption heading that you have to write here? The caption heading should be gender-wise comparison of mean scores of reasoning of students. Now this is the caption heading that should come from your objective. And now here the first objective was to compare mean scores of reasoning of male and female students. This was the objective. The data were analyzed. The data were analyzed with the help of either you can say t-test or you can say independent sample t-test. The data were analyzed with the help of t-test, and the results are given in table 1. Okay, now here I write it table 1, and I can insert the table. I'm inserting the table, and I say autofit. Okay, fine. Now here I say gender because my variable is gender, and then it is the mean I want, and then it is the standard deviation I want, and then it is the n I want, and then it is the t-value. These are the information. So I say males, then I say females, and I know the mean of the male is 29.35, and the mean of reasoning of the female is 27.73. The standard deviation is 5.11 for male, and female is 5.90, and the male were 26 and the females were 22, and my t-value was 1.02, and this is not significant. Now here I have to write the heading. So it is gender-wise mean, SD, N, and T values of reasoning of students. Okay. Now this is how you should enter your results here. Now you start the interpretation, which will take you to the testing of your hypothesis. Now I say from table 1, it can be seen. I hope this is visible.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
it is visible.
Okay. From table 1, it can be seen that Do not write calculated t-value, just write. It can be seen that the t-value is 1.02, which is not significant. Please, when it is not significant, then you need not to write it is not significant at 0.01 as well as 0.05. No. If it is not significant, it is automatically understood that it is not significant at 0.05 level. And if it is not significant at a lower level, it cannot be significant at a higher level. So it indicates that there is no significant difference in mean scores of mean scores of reasoning, that there is no significant difference in mean scores of reasoning of male and female students. Okay, because t-value is not significant and t compares the two means. So if the t-value is not significant, then these two means do not differ significantly. That's what the meaning of it. Now, thus the null hypothesis that there is no significant difference in mean scores of reasoning of male and female students is not rejected. Once I write the word is not rejected, means hypothesis has been tested. And if I say it is rejected, means hypothesis has been tested. Now, since they do not differ significantly, so hypothesis is not rejected. It may therefore be said that both male and female students were found to have reasoning to the same extent. Now, this is what I have written. This is a part of your interpretation, and it includes the testing of the hypothesis. So I think I can stop it here because it's already 4:58. So I think if there are questions, I would like to take the question because I cannot to proceed further. It's very difficult now because time is already up. Is it okay, Sambhu?
Yes, sir. We can have some discussion, some question and answer.
Yes. Please go ahead.
Some questions are there in the chat box also, sir.
You don't worry about it. You read and tell me which one.
Okay, sir. One question I have noted here that Vishaka Sen asking one question that how to write hypothesis in English literature and humanities. Since yesterday discussion during session, you said that there can be no definite hypothesis in humanities. How should we frame research statement?
Let me tell you, dear friends, whenever you have a variable, there cannot be a research without a variable.
Yes.
With respect to the variable, either you will have the quantitative information or you will have the qualitative information. Now, wherever you are doing a research with a variable in respect of which you only have the qualitative data, and this qualitative data can never be converted into quantitative, and therefore you cannot formulate the hypothesis. So formulation of hypothesis cannot be a step in those researches where you only have the qualitative information. But wherever you have a quantitative information, then that can be analyzed with the help of a statistics, and you can have a hypothesis because hypothesis can be tested. So in languages, if you want to write the hypothesis, then your variable can be like vocabulary, achievement in Hindi, like reading comprehension, English reading comprehension, Hindi reading comprehension, etc., etc. So if you have variable something like this, for which the data may be in numbers and therefore you can have, otherwise no, it's not possible. Next question.
Sir, I have one question, like assumption, hypothesis, and question, research question. What is the main difference, sir?
Now, there is a difference. Let me tell you, dear friends, I will not like to name anyone. See, when you want to do a research, then it is important for you, either you should have objective or you should have the research questions. Research questions and objectives are exactly identical. Only the difference is that objective is to be written in the simple sentence. And if you have research question as a heading, the same simple sentence has to be converted into the question form. Okay? And the research questions and hypotheses are very different. Hypothesis is the tentative solution of. So therefore, you cannot write the research question in place of hypothesis. It is technically incorrect. You cannot. So either you write objectives or you write the research questions. Okay. It is the choice between objective and the research question, and it is entirely up to the researcher which one he wants to write. As far as hypothesis is concerned, if you think you have the quantitative data and you can analyze with the help of the statistical technique, then of course you should formulate a hypothesis. And hypothesis and research questions, they are very different because hypotheses are the tentative solutions. Next question.
In descriptive survey research, is a study what is compulsory to write?
Yes, it is a compulsory. Whenever you either a survey or an experimental, if you want to write the study, it has to start with, in the title, it must start with a study. It cannot start with the study. This is technically wrong. Next question.
Difference between statistical and research hypothesis, sir? What is
Now,
the difference?
statistical hypothesis and research hypothesis, there is a lot of difference.
Yes.
One difference, that statistical hypothesis has to have a statistical word in it.
Yes.
For example, like mean, like correlation, like association. These are statistical words. And if it is a research hypothesis, then you need not to write a statistical word. Say, for example, this objective which I had and I wrote the hypothesis was that there is no significant difference in mean scores of reasoning of male and female students. This hypothesis is a statistical hypothesis. And research hypothesis will be there is no significant relationship between reasoning and gender. If you write this, then this is what is a research hypothesis. So you know that now the difference between the two. In one, you are not using a statistical word. Another, you are using a statistical word. Next question.
One question is there, sir. Uh, mm, should there be one hypothesis for one objective, or it can be more?
Now, it depends upon the wording of the objective. For example, when I gave you one objective for the one-way ANOVA, so there will be only one hypothesis. But when I gave to two-way ANOVA, three-way ANOVA, two-way ANCOVA, three-way ANCOVA, now in that case, if you want, you can write one hypothesis, or if you want, you can write the other hypothesis, 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D. Now, when you are writing 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D, you are using the word either mean or adjusted mean. And if you don't want to use mean or adjusted mean, then you can write only one hypothesis. But when it comes to the testing, then you have to test each hypothesis separately. So in the two-way ANOVA, there were three, because in one objective, there were three questions, or you can say the three findings you will come. So there will be three hypotheses. So they have to be interpreted separately. Next question.
Sir, one question is there that someone is asking about the nursery book to refer on statistical tools in research, sir. Any book you would like to suggest, sir?
Once again.
Nursery book, sir. Nursery book for statistical tools and research.
Okay. Let me tell you, dear friends, I have never come across any book which tells you the interpretation of the statistical output. No book is there. No book will tell you if you have to use, let us say, regression analysis, how the objective has to be written, how the hypothesis has to be written, the way I have told you. You will not come across any book. So do not bother about it. You have to learn at your own. Ask your guide, ask your friends, ask other teachers, whomsoever you can. Next question.
Thank you, sir. We will stop here.
All right. Thank you, sir. Sorry, I have taken 7 minutes more.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir, for an interesting and inspiring session you have taken. Words are not sufficient to thank you, and you have spent a valuable time and for a beneficial causes. And the interaction with the audience participation was really outstanding. Thank you so much, sir. You have covered the analysis part, starting from the SPSS and taking the result in interpretation, discussion, how to frame the objective. You have covered all the aspects which we should keep into considerations when we are framing the table and writing the result. Thank you so much. It was really, sir, amazing presentation given by you, and we are really very much appreciated that you have taken your effort. Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, Shamu, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is already joined. Anil, sir.
Yes, Shampoo.
Hello. So you have joined, sir?
Yeah, I've joined.
Can you start? Sir is with us. So without any further delay, we will start our session with our next resource person, Dr. Anil Ramachandran. He is working as Associate Professor and Head School of Physical Education and Sports Science Kannur University, Kannur, Kerala. And he did PhD in physical education and diploma, PG diploma in guidance and counseling, and MBA in sports management. And he has worked as an working as an associate professor and since long time, and he has got very vast teaching experience regarding sports psychology basically. And his professional experience, he has worked as a resource person for UGC refresher courses and orientation program, and resource person for more than 75 nationals and 25 international conferences and seminars. He has also supervised more than 10 PhD research work, and he has completed many minor and research project of University Grant Commission. He was the former director of IQAC Kannur University, and he has delivered a invited talk at the BWF coaching conference along with World Badminton Championship at Basel, Switzerland, in the year 2019, and also participated in World Congress of Racket Sports at Bangkok, Thailand, and he has presented paper at Olympic Games conference in 2016, Sao Paulo, Brazil. Sir has also presented paper at the World Conference of Sports Psychology at Sydney, Australia, and he has attended the World Congress at Colombo, Sri Lanka in the year 1999 and awarded Certificate of Excellence from International Open University, Colombo. Sir, with wholeheartedly, sir, I welcome you in our session. So without taking much of time, I will hand over to you, sir. Please, over to you, sir.
Okay, Shambhu, good evening. Thank you very much. I think, first of all, let me congratulate Shambhu and his team, all the IQAC of the university for organizing such a lovely program.
Thank you.
Because I was in the inaugural session and I've been seeing the feedbacks of the participants. My only concern today is, 3 hours of continuous online sessions. I'm sure I am the last person today, and the last hour in a school is not a very interesting hour, right? At least for the students, normally. Okay. So like we have a certain philosophy of arranging timetables. The most scientific subjects and the best teachers teach the first class. And slowly, because the ebb and the concentration of students go down. So I don't know what is the state of the condition of our participants. Anyway.
All are fit and fine and ready to learn something, sir.
Okay. So I would, I've been asked to speak on research writing and specifically on developing a good introduction. So I'm sure there are participants from various subjects. So I do not know how well it can fit into subjects like mathematics and other sciences. Of course, for humanities and social sciences, it can be a little common. But I think writing is a wonderful skill. And learning the art of writing is very important for us as a teacher and as a researcher. So I think without wasting much time, I'll go into my presentation. I'm just sharing my screen. Is it?
It is coming, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Is it okay, Shambhu?
Yes, perfectly, sir. Fine.
Okay. So I've just given the title Genres of Research Writing. Specifically, I'll go with developing a good introduction. Before that, I'll just narrate a little bit about the art and craft of scientific writing as well. Okay, I think we had, you have heard good sessions from resource persons who are dealing with specific areas of the results, the analysis, developing the hypothesis, etc. Research writing, it's a scientific paper. In fact, has a standardized form. That is what it makes difference between research writing and other forms of writing. And a research project is considered as not contributive if it has not been reported in a standard paper. So anyone who does research, I think we should make sure that it is being disseminated in the form of a paper or in the form of presentations. Therefore, to be contributing scientist, you must write scientific papers. So I think that is a whole scenario why we are organizing this faculty development program. Some comments about writing. I think it has been surveyed and found that more than 90% of research papers are written in English. I don't know whether anybody is against this language, but it has been said right now that publish in English or perish. I think that has to be taken seriously, apart from other language teachers who are writing in their own native languages. Otherwise, English becomes a common communication medium for us to disseminate our researches. So regrettably, this will mean that many authors are obliged to write in a language other than their native tongue. So that makes this little technical for us to understand the intricacies of how to write in a specific English language which suits the scientific community. Someday you may receive a mail stating your report manuscript is both good and original, but the part that is good is not original, and the part that is original is not good. A research requires two major areas. One is it has to be original and it has to be good. So if you are doing a good research, it has to be written wonderfully so that the quality of research which you have done is being given in the written presentation as well. Winston Churchill it's a good example. When he was working on the epic of World War II, he had asked his secretary to bring about the written account of the World War II. And it was a crucial area which he was writing, where the German was striking against London. And the secretary brought a 150-page report. Winston Churchill told that you need to cut it down and make it into 2.5 pages. So that was a terrible job for the secretary. Ultimately, he cut down everything and brought it back with a 2.5 page. Then Winston Churchill gently asked him, "I hope you don't mind doing this." The secretary answered, "Thank you, sir. You're giving me a free lesson in writing plain English." I think this is a background of research writing, where we are writing only what is adequate and necessary for us to communicate the work we have done. So that shortening of the total content, the skill of articulating the content into a very shorter form, is an important quality required for a research writer. Basic rules of writing, I think we can consider generally as 3 important basic rules. One is brevity, excluding every non-essential word. Just think of it. 150 page could be summarized into a 2.5 page report. So that means that many of the words, many of the sentences were not that essential to be communicated. So that art of excluding the non-essential words are very important in a research writing, where you are being given, maybe if you are contributing to a research paper or in a journal, you may be given just 7 or 8 or 10 pages. So you need to fit everything within those 7 or 8 pages. There you will have to cut down, you'll have to exclude upon what is not essential. Second aspect is logic and clarity in writing. A reader who goes through your research article should not feel that he is reading your article. There should be a continuous flow of communication. by which he gets immersed in the act of reading your research article. So that synchronization of the sentences, the connections of bridging those sentences one by one, bridging the paragraphs, that becomes very important. So the logic and the clarity is very important. And finally, maybe we don't consider that important. A clean typing is also very important. Very often it has been found that good research articles logically and with clarity, but ultimately the presentation in the terms of a thesis or a typed document gives a very poor appearance. So it has been shown that there is a close relationship between poorly prepared manuscript and poor science. So good science need good prepared manuscript writing. Research writing, one thing to be kept in mind, because we might spend lots of our energy, physical as well as emotional, in going through a program of research. If it is a PhD program, no doubt about it. So we are very emotional with the process by which we went through the total process. And understand, when it goes to the research writing, do not recapitulate your journey of discovery. Do not go with your emotionality in terms of writing. Choose the most direct route. Just communicate what you have done and what you have found. That is it. If you want to write about your personal experiences, I think we have other forms of writing. Autobiography can be one thing, where we can pour our emotions into it. But research writing is very, very specific in that matter. 4 questions of manuscript writing. So if you answer what is the study about, what are you doing, I think it should cover in the introductory part. What did you do? If that is a question being answered, then a person can look into your methods. If the question is addressed as what did you find, I think the results will narrate what you found through your investigation. And the last question, what does that mean? What does your finding mean? I think the discussion part should answer it. So these are the 4 important questions of manuscript writing. What is the study? It goes with the introduction. What you actually did goes with the methods. What you found out goes with the results. And what does the finding means? It goes with the discussion. Reports enable us to communicate to others what was carried out, how it was carried out, why essentially it was carried out, what was found, and what the results actually mean. So answering these 4 or 5 questions is the basic communication we do in terms of a research paper. Writing procedure. When should you start writing? How should you start writing? The main difference between scientific writing and other writing is we write to inform, not to impress. In research writing, it is not an impressive writing. It is a standard form of writing. So that makes it quite easy for everyone to write. You don't need to have lots of language to be able to be a good research writer. There is a standard format because it has to be universally read. Anybody in the world should be able to read your manuscript. So since it is a standard form of writing, the idea is not to impress, but to inform. Writing procedure, of course, you know the basic elements of a research paper. It goes with the title and abstract, the introduction, the materials and methods, the results, the discussion, conclusions, and references. Now, if you go exactly with this sequence of writing, you finalize the title and abstract, then you totally finalize the introduction, then go with your materials and methods, then find out, analyze and see your results, then your discussion, conclusions, references. I think it is going to be a very, very difficult approach. So in research writing, we follow a different method. The order of writing is inside out. Research writing, Your research writing should start with your methods. It should start with your method. As you develop your study, you start writing. You start writing and simultaneously you develop your study. So writing goes along with your conduct of the study. And then once you have conducted the study, you have your results. You discuss upon your findings. You conclude. Then you go back and finalize your introduction, and finally the title and the abstract. That doesn't mean that the title, abstract, and introduction need not be framed early. It needs to be framed early, even during the proposal time. But the finalization of the introduction, the title and abstract can be at the last, because it all depends upon what exactly the study has found out and what results have been framed from the particular study. So writing is an active part of doing research. Writing is not something which you do after you totally complete your study. It is an interactive process. Your manuscript can be a blueprint for your experiments. You keep on writing, you keep on doing. So framing the manuscript itself is the blueprint for your experiment. So as a scientist, as a writer, you must write as an experimentalist. Write while you work strengthens your research. So writing a paper can be an integral part of the observational science. Standards of scientific paper. As I told you, we have a stereotyped format for almost all the subjects. There is a precise language. There is a clear-cut direction of research writing. Research should be written and should be made available for review. So this makes the components of a scientific paper. There is a stereotype format which everybody knows, where we have the abstract, the introduction, materials, results, discussion, conclusions, references. Language is very precise. The essential characteristics of scientific writing is clarity. Slippery words and vague phrases are confusing, and there is no place for ambiguity. So very simple, clear language should be used in research writing. So that means it is not mastering a foreign language. It is just understanding and learning the essentialities of writing in a foreign language. In research, descriptions must be precise. Recipes must be complete. Data must be exact. Logic must be transparent. Conclusions must be cleanly stated. So everywhere, exactness and clarity, that precision of language is important in research writing. Research writing has got a single clear direction. Ultimately, everything that you write, whether you write it in introduction, whether you write in the methods, whether it depends upon your statistical analysis and the reporting of the findings, or the final discussion, all these four should lead ultimately to your conclusion. So the total purpose of your research writing is to get a conclusion at the end. Your entire paper should point inexorably towards the conclusion. Finally, a research paper has to be reviewed and made available for others. A scientific paper should be accessible to others. Having a paper preserved in a public forum ensures that the scientific community will have the opportunity to use it. So any research which is done and which is not published is not going to be useful at all. So whether it is small or big, do not forget, think about the standard of your publication at the initial stages, but start learning and improving upon the art of scientific writing. Scientific tests, exactness and clarity. Writing with precision is important. Medium is not the message is the message. You are communicating exactly what is to be communicated. You're not communicating through a wonderful language. Using of numbers is very important for exactness. Do not use terminologies which do not show clearness and exactness. For example, tall, heavy, brief period. Wherever it is possible, you need to give your writing in terms of exactness of numbers. Always use objective words. When quantifiable words are not available, use precise objective vocabulary. Exactness and clarity, weeding out or replacing vague and subjective terms is a wonderful art. That is the most important art of writing. You should know how to weed out terminologies which are not relevant, how to replace vague words with very simple and understandable words. I'll give you some of the examples. Expressions such as fairly, long term, slightly, somewhat. I think these are terms which should not be used in our research reporting. Words of personal judgment, such as beautiful, certainly, hopefully, surely, unfortunately. These are also words which should not, it doesn't give an exactness. It doesn't give clarity. Words that are only fillers, such as all right, basically, one of the things. Catch words and phrases, such as bottom line, cutting edge, leaps and bounds, tip of the iceberg. If you're going for a literature writing, it is fine. If you're writing a book, it is fine. But in research writing, these words are preferably not entertained. Writing numbers is another important area of concern. When should we write the numericals? When should we elaborate the numbers in words? I think each subject discipline shows general rules for writing of these numbers. Maybe it is not suitable for subjects like mathematics, but for sciences and humanities, there is a general rule for deliberating on numbers. See the first example. When numbers are less than 10, you need to write the numbers in words. Up to 9. In any of your paragraph, you are writing a number up to 9. Always use words. When describing ages, use numerals. The 10-year-olds performed better than the 8-year-olds. It is not necessary to write in words there. If the number is at the beginning of a sentence, always use the words, even if it is less than 9, even if it is more than 9, sorry. 60 students had not heard about Ebola. When numbers above or at 10 and below 10 are being compared in the same sentence, use numerals. Participants worked on either 5 or 10 logic problems. So these are some of the conditions which are being specified for a good standard writing using the numbers. Exactness. Especially when we refer to age category, when we refer to young adults, aged people. If you're referring anywhere in your study, I think it is always better to show the age span, or it should be a common term which is being generally used, like adolescence. We know adolescence spans from 13 to 18 or 19 years. It's quite understood. But otherwise, it is always good to specify the age span so that that age becomes clear. Another important mistake which we commonly use is avoid the use of the term respectively. Respectively obliges the reader to stop and reread the sentence. For example, you can just see a passage which I have taken from a research work. Phytate reduction in wheat, rye, barley, with and without hulls, incubated with 40 gram water plus 100 gram cereal for 24 hours at 55 degrees centigrade was 45, 56, 48 and 77% respectively. Now, if a reader goes through this passage, then he will have to go and reread to understand which is connected with which term in the previous part of the sentence. So in that case, it is always better to write after incubation with 40 gram water by 100 gram cereal for 24 hours at 55 degrees centigrade. Phytate reduction in wheat was 45% in rye, 55% in barley with hulls, 48% in barley without hulls. So that gives a clear understanding rather than going for a rereading. Use of tense is another important thing. I think it has been already discussed in some of the sessions. Generally, we write the thesis or the research report in the present tense for generalities and in past tense for specific observations. Use the present tense for general knowledge statements. Use the present tense for widely accepted statements and for the statements which you would cite textbook references. Once you are going for your own results, the particular observations you made, that becomes a part of history. So use the past tense whenever you report your results. Of course, though we use the present and past tense, there are some variations of the tenses to be used in the different parts of the report. I'll just take you through that. Abstract, definitely it is usually given in the past tense because it is a total consolidation of everything about your study. Introduction, we use the present tense. Why the research is important? It is being mentioned in the present tense. It indicates the reader that you believe the research findings are still true and relevant. Example, genomics provide crucial information for rational drug design. It is existing even now. It is true and relevant. So that is reported in a present tense. If you are reporting researches, then you can also use the present perfect tense. A great deal of research has been conducted on the basic, or experiments have been carried out. Here it is not the present tense, it is the present perfect tense when you're reporting research works. So in the introduction, you can either use present tense for general research findings which are relevant, and you can also use present perfect to report researchers of others. In the method part, of course, since it is something which you have already done, the past tense is used to describe what was done. Simple past to describe what you did in your study. X and Y were measured. What were the tools you used? What were the techniques you adopted? A standard protocol was followed. But once you are relating to tables in your methodology or to figures, there you say table 1 demonstrates. It goes into the present tense. Figure 2 shows. When you're mentioning about the results, past tense for results already obtained, the results indicated. Again, if you're referring to tables, the present tense is used. Whenever you're referring to a table, figure 1 displays, table 2 shows. So even in the results part, present tense is being used when you are directly referring to something which the reader should look into. In the discussions, present tense to explain significance of results. The findings appears to. Though we are reporting based on our findings, if you are explaining the significance of our study, it is better that you can mention it in the present tense. past tense to summarize findings, with present tense to interpret results. I don't know whether it can go with clarity to you. As the results did not correspond to so and so, it is possible that the findings observed may not be the result of. This is how we connect the results and then give a conclusion. So even in conclusion, combination of these tenses to highlight past research and future directions. So it need not be that the whole content of your writing goes only with the past tense. According to what is the intention, you can use more of past tense in reporting and present tense where you want to indicate a particular thing, and even a future tense in the conclusion part where you are referring to something which you might do later. Further studies are therefore necessary. Future tense can be used to convey perspectives and plan. In future studies, we will examine the effects of. If you want to convey that you are not stopping your research here, you will be undertaking the study into a further dimension, then you are always speaking in terms of a future tense. So this combination of using tenses and the art of fitting all this into a wonderful narration, I think this can be mastered once you have a framework of which part to be narrated in which particular tense. Verbosity is another important thing. As I discussed earlier, omitting needless words. So I just took an example from a research paragraph. It's a very scientific study about a drug. Our research designed to test the fatal effects of PSGF2 alpha on dogs, which is a drug, which was carried out by intravenously introducing the drug. In the experiments, a relatively small quantity, 30 mg, was administered to each animal. In each case, the PGF2 alpha proved fatal, all 10 dogs expiring before a lapse of 5 minutes after the injection. So the message is clear. The drug was injected, and then all the 10 dogs had a fatal death. Now, how can you shorten this? There are many words which can be omitted in this particular paragraph. You can see the next slide. 17 words are enough instead of the 52 words. Intravenous injection of 30 mg prostaglandin PFGF2 alpha to each of the 10 dogs killed them within 5 minutes. I think it communicates the same meaning which was communicated in 4 sentences. So omitting needless words is a golden rule, especially in research writing. When you are being limited, you are being given a limited space of writing. And also keep in mind that nobody is interested to read a big narration. They exactly want to know what you need to communicate to them. So this art of verbosity is very important. Omitting needless words becomes very important in a research writing format. Caution words, the use of he and she in terms of gender. I'm sure most writers no longer use male pronouns. Instead, we have got constructions such as he oblique she, or maybe s oblique he, which substitutes both. But I think neither of these are solving the problem. That all again adds to the constructions. The simplest way to avoid this is write in the plural. For example, all patients were interviewed at the outpatient unit they belong to. You don't need to write he or she here. If you use plural, that part of the aspect of the gender becomes minimized. So wherever it is possible, go with the plural so that the construction becomes unbiased in terms of gender. If it is not possible, then you will have to specify on it. Paragraph writing is important. In a research paper, each paragraph should contain one main idea, and the space between paragraphs should be taking a mental breath. So it is not just picking up sentences from literature and then compiling it as a paragraph. writing a paragraph is a wonderful art. The ideal size of a paragraph in research writing is maximum of 4 or 5 sentences. 3 to 4 is ideal. 5 or 6 sentences are the upper limit. So you cannot write a paragraph of a 1 page and no reader is going to read that whole paragraph. If you find that you have written more sentences without allowing for a mental breath, I think you need to go back and make it into small chunks. Inside the paragraph, the first sentence is important. That is a focus sentence. That is a lead sentence. The first sentence should communicate what you are exactly going to mention in that particular paragraph. So I think if you start writing and giving a thought to this idea, you will start developing good paragraph writing. The subsequent sentences, the remaining 2 to 3 sentences in each paragraph, should expand on the focal point that was identified in the lead sentence. So the lead sentences makes a setting and the subsequent sentences expand the lead sentences. And definitely there has to be an internal flow. There has to be an internal flow where a reader should be able to read your paragraphs without pausing. To give your writer this flow, each sentence of a paragraph should set the stage for the following sentence. Every sentence should be an extension of the previous sentence. I think whenever you go for a writing, just give a thought to this. See whether your second sentence is a continuation of the first sentence or is it entirely different. So if you can get a connection, then there is a smooth travel between sentences and between paragraphs. This gives the reader a very interesting and catching way of going through your research writing. Common errors: failing to connect sentences. We often mix up sentences from elsewhere and try to combine and make it a paragraph. Remember, the space between a full stop and the next capital letter is the dangerous space for you as well as the reader. A good writer is able to connect this space wonderfully so that the reader doesn't feel there is a gap between a sentence and the succeeding sentence. Sorry. So signaling language is important. I think this is something which we need to learn. One way to communicate one sentence to another sentence is, I think as Shambhu, there are a lot of people who are in the waiting room and the screen is repeatedly.
Yes, I am doing, sir.
I'm trying to avoid it, but it is repeatedly coming in my slide.
Okay.
One way to overlap, one way to have a signaling language is to overlap. Just observe this example. The pattern of inflammation during an asthma attack is different from that seen in stable asthma. So that is the first sentence. So it is clear. You are going to discuss something about the inflammation of stable asthma. Now the next sentence, see how it starts. In stable asthma, the total number of inflammatory cells do not increase. So you have picked up from the previous sentence. You have picked up the most prominent thing from the previous sentence, and that begins your next sentence. So this gives a continuity, a bridging between the first and the second sentence. So this is one way where you can overlap the first sentence with the second sentence, which can communicate without loss of space between the first and the second sentence. Another way is to use pronoun. If you can use it, they, or you can use proforms. This method, these systems, you can see this example. Many researchers have suggested ways of reducing cost without affecting the quality of image. The first sentence. The second sentence, these methods rely on data structures building a pre-processing step. Now I'm connecting the first sentence and the second sentences referring to the methods which I mentioned in the first sentence. So this signaling language is very important when you write a paragraph. So the art of paragraph writing is when you are able to connect sentences to next sentences and there is a flow. There is no loss of communication between the sentences. Order of writing and order of published paper is entirely different. Order of writing, as I said, it can go with starting with the materials, results, discussion, conclusion, introduction, and finally the title, abstract, and keywords. But order of published works goes with the title and abstract, introduction, materials and methods, results, discussion, and conclusion. So though you are presenting your paper in the IMRAD format, but your writing should start once you start doing your research, right from the methods. So I'll go into the major area which is the focus today, because the general aspects which I discussed on writing stands true even for a good introduction. Introduction is very important. Developing a good introduction is very important. In 2000, the average attention span was 12 seconds. And in 2015, the average attention span is 8.25 seconds. So we have just 8 seconds to capture someone's full attention. Imagine if you have written a 6 or 7, 8 pages of your research article, you need to attract the reader to read all the 8 or 7 or 8 pages. And the introduction is the beginning. So the introduction has got immense importance and it sets the frame whether someone reads your article or no. A well-written introduction is important because quite simply, you never get a second chance to make a good first impression. First introductory paragraph is very, very important. Many people just read the first 2 sentences and skip your article because they understand what is going to come later. So very, very much care should be given in developing the introduction. Less than 2% readers cite your article. Among these 2%, approximately 90%, 98% just read the abstract and introduction. So the most important catching area of your research is the abstract and introduction. If that is being framed very good, definitely your research writing gets a full reading and a better citation. Opening paragraph, the initial impression about the logic of the argument, your writing style, overall quality and validity of findings and conclusions. A person who reads the opening paragraphs will clearly understand what is, it gets an impression about what is the logic of your argument, what is going to be your writing style. He gets an impression about the overall quality of the works. He even gets an impression about the findings and conclusion by just going through the first paragraph. A vague, disorganized introduction can have a negative impression, no doubt about it. The introduction gives the reader the beginning of the piece of thread so that they can follow it throughout the proposal or the paper. When to write an introduction, I already said, introduction can be written at the end of your finalization. Though you can have an initial introduction, it needs to be revised in the light of what you have found out, because the introduction communicates exactly what the findings and conclusions are going to emphasize on. Objectives of writing the introduction, I don't think I need to elaborate on this. All the essential elements of an introductory part should be mentioned in it. It should contain the overview of the problem. It should facilitate background information, the rationale behind the study, the objectives. All these should be mentioned. These are the important elements, common elements of writing an introduction. Establish the context, background, and importance. That is an art. How are you trying to establish the context of your study? How are you narrating the background of your study? How are you emphasizing the importance of your study? That comes in your introductory part. It gives a brief synopsis of the relevant literature, not elaborate literature. Over citation is not necessary in the introduction, but very relevant as a synopsis of relevant literature. It should definitely highlight the inadequacy of previous research. That is very important. That is how you establish a territory of your study. So once you start writing your introduction, see that you develop a synopsis of the literature, highlighting the inadequacy of previous research, thereby indicating a problem, controversy, or a knowledge gap in the field. So this enables you to establish the desirability of your present research. So you get an entry point. You get an entry point, and then you go for other technicalities of listing the research question and hypothesis, which has been already discussed, providing the synopsis of a research methods if you're going with a research article for a journal, explaining the value and significance of the study, key terms. Good research articles also give an overview of the structure and even explain reasons of the writer's personal interest in a particular study. So these are not a hard and fast rule, but these can be the essential elements which you can include in an introductory part. Writing introduction, there are different models which has been already established. The Doodley Events model of 6 moves and the CARS model by John Swales are 2 important models. I think both are communicating almost the same structure of writing. I'll just go through both of these models. The first model says there are 6 steps in this model: introducing the field. Then the second move is introducing the general topic within the field. The third move is introducing the particular topic. The fourth move is defining the scope of the particular topic by introducing the research parameters, summarizing previous research. And the fifth move is preparing the present research by indicating a gap, indicating a possible extension of previous research. And the sixth move is introducing the present research by stating the aims, objectives, and brief explanation of how you are going to justify the study. So this is a model which has been developed as a by Doodley Events in terms of 6 moves of introductory writing, just simply for introduction. See one part of research writing. Even on introduction, people have focused so much so that nothing goes wrong in the technical writing. This is something quite simple and easy to understand, the CARS model. The first part is establishing the territory of your study. Second is identifying the niche, indicating a gap in the knowledge, and then occupying the space where you list the purpose, questions, indicating the structure of the study. So establishing the territory, the author can set the context for his or her research, provide necessary background, claiming the importance of the study, making topic generalizations, and reviewing items of previous research. All these are done so that you are trying to establish a space for your present study. So if you can keep this in mind, that the first part of the introduction should always be an attempt to establish your territory of occupying a space in the total research area in that particular field. Second is how you are able to establish your particular study, the gap. The action here refers to making a clear argument that your particular piece of research is important and possesses value. We need to establish, we need to argue and say, this part of research is so important. That is why we are trying to attempt this study. So that becomes the second move. This can be done by indicating a specific gap. So that is where we have a compilation of research, and we say that those studies have done in this area, it has not gone in this direction. So we are trying to establish a space for us. And then the accepted assumption, then we go with all the technicalities, maybe in terms of counterclaiming, maybe in terms of indicating a gap, maybe as raising a question, or maybe in continuing a tradition. Whatever it is, we are trying to establish our space for the present research. Move 3 is occupying the space. There we go with all the other technicalities. How the gap identified is going to be answered. The research question, outlining the purpose, announcing the present research, announcing the principal findings, indicating the article structure. So this is the 3 moves which has been indicated in the model. So both these models gives a theoretical explanation of how to go with an introductory part. Another important area which I think we need maybe hands-on experience is the phrases and sentences for writing. Because certain phrases and certain sentences communicate certain elements of research more wonderfully than general writing. So I'll go with few examples, like how you can introduce a topic, how you can establish a topic, what are the phrases and sentences you can use. It can differ from your topic to topic, but I think if you go through literature, you can get plenty of these phrases and sentences as framework for preparing your own research areas. Now, establishing the importance of topic. Now, these can be a few important examples. A key aspect of X is your area of study. So you can start establishing the importance of topic by a sentence, a key aspect of X. Or you can say by X is of interest because. These usages are very important. X is a classical problem. Or you can start with a primary concern of X's. Or you can start with studies of X represent a growing field. All these are trying to establish the importance of your topic. X has been a subject of many classical studies. So you are showing the relative importance. The issue of X have received considerable critical importance. So all these phrases you can keep as a reference, and you can see how these phrases can fit into your study topic. And if you can use the appropriate connecting phrases and sentences, that gives a better establishment of your topic presentation. If you want to establish the importance of topic with a time frame, then I think it is quite different. Maybe if you are referring to a time frame, then maybe this is much better. Over the century, there has been a dramatic increase in. So you are referring to the last century. So you're referring to a time frame and then trying to establish your importance of your topic. Recent trends in X have led to. You are referring to a recent period. In the last decade, there has been a surge of interest in the effects of. You are referring to 10 years. Recently, a considerable literature has grown up around the theme. You are referring to very recent research. Recent developments in the field of X have led to renewed interest in. So all these can be phrases or sentences which can establish the importance of topic with reference to a typical time frame. Highlighting the importance of a problem. So if you're connecting phrases and sentences are with the importance of highlighting the importance, I think good usages can be X is a key issue in. X is a leading cause. X is a major problem. Of particular concern is X is associated with increased risk of. It is now well established that X can impair. So you're highlighting the importance of that particular topic. Despite its long clinical success, X has number of problems. Though you're referring to the importance, you are referring to some gaps in those particular areas. X is the leading cause of death in Western countries. So these can be phrases or sentences which can highlight the importance of a problem in your introduction. When you are narrating the literature in the introductory part, when you're giving a synopsis of the literature, I think these can be connected phrases or sentences. Recent evidence suggests that. So recent evidence means the studies which have been done recently. You are giving a compilation of those studies. Extensive research show that. Again, you are referring to wide researches done in a particular area. Studies of X show the importance of. Several attempts have been made. So these are all good usages which can be part of your introduction when you are referring to the synopsis of your literature. The existing body of research suggests that. Recently, investigators have examined. Again, it is a compilation of the literature. A considerable amount of literature has been published on X. Results from earlier studies demonstrate. So these phrases or sentences can better suit the synopsis of your literature in your introductory part. Highlighting a controversy in the field. So if your study is, your idea is to establish a controversy and then try to enter into one side of it, then I think these phrases and sentences can be good. A much debated question is whether, and then you cite both the sides. One major issue in early X research concerned is, to date, there has been little agreement on what. Debate continues about the best strategies for. All these are trying to highlight the differences in the findings in the present field. One major theoretical issue that has dominated the field for years concerns. Again, you are trying to say, though there is a theoretical issue, there are concerns in it. There has been a division between historians on the subject of. There has been difference of opinion. So there is a controversy. Questions have been raised about the use of online teaching. So wherever there is a controversy, and if you want to highlight on that controversy, that is an entry point for you to enter into a area of research. Then I think these phrases and sentences can go good for your introductory part. General reference to previous research, highlighting the paucity, highlighting the shortcomings. So very often, even when you see the literature review, not many studies might have been done in a particular area. In that case, you can mention these phrases and sentences. No previous study has investigated X. There is little published information on. There has been no detailed investigation of. Surprisingly, the effects of X has not been closely examined. Relatively little research has been carried out on. So far, there has been little discussion about. So all these are sentences with phrases which can give a better highlight on the paucity or the lack of research in a particular area, which gives an entry point for you to establish your territory. Highlighting a gap in the field of knowledge. So if you want to establish a gap in the field of knowledge, sorry, there's a spelling mistake in field. It is still not known whether, then you can go with what you want to explain. The nature of X remains unclear. Causal factors leading to X remains speculative. To date, there has been no reliable evidence that. Much certainty still exists about the relationship between. You are expressing a gap. To date, studies investigating X have produced equivocal results. There is a gap. It has been on either sides. So these can be some good usages with phrases and sentences where in your introduction, if your purpose is to highlight a gap in the field of knowledge. Indicating the focus, aim, or argument. The paper has 4 key aims. Firstly, secondly, you can mention it. So it gives a clear indication of what are your exact stages. The central thesis of the paper is that if you want to focus on the main theme, then this usage becomes more specific. Specifically, the following issues will be addressed. So these are the issues which I am trying to address in my present research. In the pages that follow, it will be argued that. So these can be indicating the focus or argument of your research writing in the introductory part. Phrases and sentences for writing the purpose of research. The specific objective of the study was to, I think this is quite common, is known to everyone. The study examines the ways in which. An objective of the study was to investigate. The prospective study was designed to investigate the use of. The main aim of the study is to. The study intends to determine the extent to which. So I think if these phrases and sentences can be kept as a ready reckoner, and you as a new researcher, even an experienced researcher, I think sometimes we don't get the exact phrases and sentences to connect our topic. So if you can keep a list of all these, and then you can see which fits into your sentence construction, I think you can better establish the importance, maybe with reference to a time frame. You can highlight the importance of the problem. You can compile a synopsis of the literature. You can highlight controversies in the field. You can highlight the paucity or the lack of studies in a particular area. You can highlight the gap in the field of knowledge and indicate the focus, aim, and argument, and stating the purpose. So justification of the study is another important part which is to be done in the introductory part. Try answering issues like, is the problem you wish to study a current and timely one? Recency is very important in terms of study. Does the problem exist now? How widespread is the problem? So all these can justify the importance of your study. Are there many areas and many people affected by a problem? Global, regional, national, state level. So this shows the extent to which the study can be justified. Does the problem affect specific segment of population, such as youth, mothers, or children? Does the problem relate to ongoing program? Does it relate to social, economic? So all these connections will better establish your justification in the introductory part. General guidelines for writing an introduction. You should justify that your research is needed. I think as already said by all other speakers, be careful to avoid plagiarism. Make it as concise but comprehensible. Very short but understandable. That is the standard of research writing. You don't need to have lots of vocabulary to research writing, because it is actually a monotonous writing. The same words are being replicated in research writing. You cannot use new idioms and phrases in your research writing. But it has to be concise, it has to be comprehensible, it has to be understandable. Be sure to quote updated literature. Be updated with the research in the latest scenario. Presenting typical scenario is very important. Attributes of a good manuscript. It is concise, but it is very powerful. Though it is not a very narrative, just like a storybook, but it should be like a story-like. The presentation needs to have an art of a storytelling, so that the reader is interested in going from paragraphs to paragraph. It has to be specific to the point, free from grammatical and stylistic errors. Every discipline has got a typical manuscript format. We have to be thorough with that format and see that it goes with that particular style, and it is free of grammatical errors. Due importance and recognition should be given to contribution of others. So once you start respecting others, I think the matter of plagiarism is always out of way, right? And research writing has to be technically correct. From good research to good writing, if you have done a good research, it should be justified with a good writing. Quality is the state of mind. If you have quality in your state of mind, I think I heard the previous speaker saying, take your own time to prepare a good manuscript. Don't be in a hurry. Because when we are in speed, we always commit mistakes. We always don't go with the specificities of making a good manuscript. Good science should lead to great findings, and great findings need to be reported in the best possible way. Final step, revision and proofreading is very, very important. Words are very disguising. Any manuscript you read again and again, I'm sure you will find 2 or 3 mistakes again. There is no perfect manuscript. So proofreading is a very important aspect. Don't get burdened by reading it 3 or 4 times. Maybe have the patience to go through it word by word, letter by letter. Revision is very, very important. If you have co-authors, the idea of co-authors has taken a different dramatic style now. One person does the study and 3 or 4 join in the publication group. That is not the idea of co-authorship. Co-authorship is where everybody contributes to the research. I hope we need to be honest in this. Do not simply write a person's name because he or she is your friend. That can lead to various issues later. So every author should be contributive, either in the framing of the study, or maybe in the methodology part, or in the statistical part, and see that everyone reads it before you send the manuscript for publication. Give them timelines. Proofreading is important. Grammar and spelling errors, the consistent verb tense which we discussed, the vocabulary, tightening of the sentences, the spell check, punctuation, typographical errors, technical terms, scientific symbols, maybe in scientific subjects, the reaction scheme, chemical structures, name, references. The introduction, I would say, is by far the most important section in the entire paper, especially for conferences as well as research papers. Readers are always very busy. If your reviewer can reject a paper without reading it, it saves their time. So they just read the introduction, they understand the quality of the study. They don't read after that. But if an introduction is interesting, definitely you get a chance for your study to be reviewed and accepted. So introduction is the first sections they read. Make sure that your paper does not get killed in the first section itself. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. It's a very wonderful session.
I think I have exceeded some time. I'm sorry for that.
It's okay, sir. Fine. It happened. So, any questions? We can have one or two questions. I can see one. Sir, can we have some questions?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. I can see one question. I have a question to ask you. If you please enlighten us how writing a research paper for a journal is different from writing a chapter in an edited book.
Okay, research writing for a journal definitely is entirely different, because every journal has got their own typical formatting. Every journal has got a specific theme and objective. So even when you start doing your research, you have to be very clear about what type of research journal are you going to publish. It is not actually you finish your study and then you search journals in which this can get attention. So research writing in journal should go specific with the specification of a particular journal, the area, theme, and the structure or format with a journal specifies. So chapter writing is a theoretical framework. Of course, the technicalities of writing remains the same basically. But only thing is you have more flexibility in terms of communicating better dimensions of your theoretical frameworks in a edited chapter, which you may not get the liberty when you write in a research article.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions? We can have one or two questions. No questions are there, sir.
Anybody, I think Sambhu, anybody who wants I have got detailed write-up of this. If anybody wants, I think they can contact me. I can send them by mail.
Yeah. You can, or you can do, sir. You can send on my mail. I can send a registered email if you want.
Yeah, sure.
Definitely. Many of them are asking for the PPTs.
Yeah, sure,
so,
sure.
Yeah, we will share them. Okay. So we can wind up, sir.
Okay, Shambhu, thank you very much.
Once again, I want to state that we are all most grateful to you on this stage, and we thank you for being with us this evening. It's been really a great pleasure. You throw light on basic rules of writing, research, paper introduction, writing procedure, standard of scientific paper, then introduction, the tenses to be followed, abstract, the languages, order of writing, then various models and moves you have discussed. You have thrown light on phrases and sentences for writing. So it was really a very enlightening and eye-opening session, and it's a need of ours, sir. Thank you so much for making a big class feel small and super fun. Thank you so much for facilitating such a positive learning environment. And we look forward to see you again in our future program. We really had a great time with you, sir. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
sir.
once
All the
again.
best. Thank you.
Thank
You are
you.
doing a wonderful work. Thank you, Shankar.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm leaving. I'm leaving. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Uh, now I call Dr. Rajesh Chakravarti, member of IQSC, to propose a formal vote of thanks of the session. Sir, you are.
Thank you, Dr. Shambhu, for the opportunity. Dear participant, as we all have who have attended all the three sessions would agree with me that today's sessions were very fruitful in the terms of, in the first session where Professor Vinod Jain, who is Vice Chancellor of Tejpur, talked about how basically one needs to approach a scientific research paper or scientific writing, because he is basically an eminent scientist of environmental sciences. Then we listened to Professor Sansanwal, who also delivered a lecture yesterday. And today also he kind of mesmerized all of us with his minute details in how to present a literature with respect to SPSS and other statistical data. And then we listened to Dr. Ramachandran, who kind of gave a kind of ready reckoner of the words and phrases, even what is best to be used. So I hope all of you have benefited. At least we have benefited, although we are being the organizer, but we are also learning with all of you. So hope to see you all of you tomorrow again at 3 p.m. I can see that more than 295 feedback has been filled today. Yesterday it was around 291, and for the day one it was also 290. So it's kind of average of 290 to 95 responses that we get. So thank you all the participants, and hope to see you tomorrow at 3 p.m. sharp again. Thank you. With this, we conclude this session. We'll meet tomorrow again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. We can end the session, sir. Any